Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 208 on the 14th of October 2012. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. Let me look out that window. Overcast, partly sunny, birds chirping, whatever that means. Must be the omen of something. On today's show, well, let me kick off with some really good news, some fantastic news. Maynard, oh yes, our favourite reporter Maynard is off to the convention in Melbourne. The convention we've been raving about for the last month or so. Australian Skeptics National Convention in Melbourne coming up at the end of November. There are still tickets available. If you come along, not only will you meet James Randi, DJ Griffey, Rebecca Watson, blah, 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 big list, you'll get to meet Maynard. And if you do meet Maynard, there's a good chance he'll interview you, I guess. That's what he does. Maynard in Melbourne. Sounds like a beginning of a poem. Maynard in Melbourne. Anyway. Can't wait for the convention. Can't wait to be there with Maynard. It was so much fun at the amazing meeting with Maynard. Good news. And of course, it's thanks to the ongoing contributions by Skeptic Zone listeners that Maynard can get to Melbourne. That's the only reason I can afford to fly him down. As ever, I am most grateful. Thank you for those people who chip in only $1 a week. It really means that I can do things like fly Maynard down to Melbourne to get lots more interviews for your listening pleasure. And speaking of Maynard and listening pleasure, on this week's show, coming up a bit later, Maynard's back at the amazing meeting in Las Vegas. He's scored an interview with Michael Shermer. Michael Shermer, the very famous Michael Shermer, skeptic extraordinaire. And then he talks to our US correspondent on the East Coast from the Granite State, New Hampshire, Travis Roy. He catches up with our reporter, Travis Roy, at the amazing meeting. And then he talks to one of the people involved in the Melbourne Convention itself. Don Hyatt from the Victorian Skeptics gives his impressions on the United States, on TAM, on Las Vegas, and tells us more about the upcoming convention. But before all that, more birds. I'm going to open the window, folks. Hang on. Why not have a bit of sound effects while I'm doing the introduction? Let me have a listen. I can hear about 4 different species of birds out there and a cockatoo. Maybe there's a flood coming. Maybe we shall run to the ark. Where was I? Oh, yes. Now, before we get to Maynard's adventures at TAM once more, I give a short report about an item that went online at news.com by a wonderful reporter, Tory Sherperd from Adelaide. Now, Tory Sherperd was the guest of the Australian Skeptics a couple of weeks ago at our dinner, one of our dinner meetings. And we had a bit of a chat, and I put some story ideas her way, and one of those has resulted in her writing a piece about homeopathy, because our dear wacky friends at Homeopathy Plus put out a story about homeopathy for domestic violence, which I think I mentioned on the show last week. Well, I read the report that came out. On this week's show, you'll hear the report that came out, and you'll hear the response from one of the homeopaths. It's just extraordinary. I think I'm living in Avery at the moment. It's nice to have all these birds flying around just outside the house. Anyway, one last thing before we get stuck into the show. A website has been brought to my attention, which is linked to a book, which is linked to a video on YouTube. If you visit www.kidsastrology.com.au, KIDSASTROLOGY.com.au, Kids Astrology is a range of 12 children's books, one each for the 12 signs of the zodiac. When we learn about star signs, we can understand how and why and when we do things. We can also discover a lot about ourselves and our many talents. These books were designed to help encourage children to understand themselves and other people and to embrace difference. Oh dear. Oh dear, dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh me. Worth a visit. Mouse over the various cute astrology signs on the page, and you'll get to see what these little characters say. Leo kids are exciting, generous, loyal, outgoing, and affectionate. Gemini kids are entertaining, playful, quick thinkers, funny, and honest. I think you get the idea, folks. Capricorn kids are sensible, practical, independent, and organized, and wouldn't be visiting this page. Anyway, why not check it out? This is what I do. This is what skeptics should do, is look at these things, look at what is out there. If you do go to that page, I strongly encourage you to click the YouTube link and look at the accompanying video. And if you feel so inclined, maybe you'd like to comment. That's a cockatoo. You know what, folks? There it is again. I think I might go outside with my camera and see if I can photograph a couple of the passing native wildlife, which are passing right now. Will I do that with a with a bar of milk chocolate in my hand? I'll let you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. A couple of weeks ago, Australian skeptics here in Sydney were delighted to play host to Tory Sherperd from news.com.au, a journalist working in Adelaide. Now, Tory flew up and spoke to our dinner meeting about the media and skepticism and how the media treat claims of the paranormal and this sort of thing. A great talk. And after the talk, a group of us were chatting with Tory, and we brought her attention to various things like the New Age magazines, which I love to read. Then we brought her attention to one of the zany and wacky and outrageous claims made at the website of Homeopathy Plus. Now, this claim related to homeopathy to treat domestic violence. I'll just repeat that. Homeopathy to treat domestic violence. You should have seen the look on Tory's face. This led to Tory, a few days later, writing the following. Claims that homeopathy treats domestic violence must be stopped, experts say. By Tory Sherperd. Dated the 9th of October 2012. Available at news.com.au. Some Australian homeopaths claim they can treat anything from autism to deadly infections to violence, including domestic violence. Sydney clinic Homeopathy Plus, for example, promotes the use of homeopathy for potentially fatal anaphylactic shock and post-childbirth infections, and director Fran Sheffield said homeopathy can treat excesses of human behaviour, including domestic violence. Homeopathy involves diluting various substances, such as plants, in water to such an extent that sometimes only a minute amount of the original substance is left. The Australian Medical Association says it's untested, unproven. The National Medical Health and Research Council says it doesn't work, and Australian Skeptics President Richard Saunders says it is closer to witchcraft than to medicine. The Homeopathy Plus website links to an article that claims homeopathy is a safe and effective way to treat victims as well as culprits of domestic violence, and contains a list of remedies for both victims and perpetrators. Asked whether she really believed homeopathy could treat domestic violence, Ms. Sheffield told news.com.au that uncontrollable rage and anger were symptoms of an imbalance that homeopathy could fix. Few people realize that homeopathy can rebalance that mental-emotional area dealing with jealousy, frustration, anger, and inability to balance their emotions, she said. We can treat anxiety homeopathically. The same can be true for many emotions. Miss Sheffield said she had only treated one man for violence, but believed she was successful. AMA President Dr. Steve Hambleton said homeopathy was not even biologically plausible, and it was dangerous to pretend it could work, and called for sanctions against outrageous claims. There is a potentially very severe problem that victims or perpetrators are being diverted into a pathway for which there's no plausible evidence, he said. This may stop someone in a potentially dangerous situation from making a decision that will keep them safe, and keeping them safe should be the first priority. There needs to be sanctions for people who make outrageous claims without evidence. Mr. Saunders said homeopathy was a huge money spinner and should be cracked down on, and called the claim that it could treat domestic violence sick. If it wasn't so sick, it would be laughable, he said. It's a huge money spinner. You sell sugar and water, which substances are diluted in, for thousands of times their cost price. It should be absolutely cracked down on. They've got away with it for so long because it's got nothing in it, so it can't actually hurt you. It's non-existent. But the real harm comes from people thinking it's going to help. The NHMRC, Australia's leading health expertise body, has formed a homeopathy working committee to develop a position statement on homeopathy. A draft statement found it was unethical to use homeopathy because it doesn't work, and it could be risky if using it caused someone to delay real, effective treatment. Now, the only comment I'd make at this stage is where the article says homeopathy involves diluting various substances such as plants in water to such an extent that sometimes only a minute amount of the original substance is left. That really should say that none of the original substance is left. None. Not even a molecule. Nothing. Needless to say, this report has caused many comments to be posted on the website, and too many to go through, of course, but I thought I would read one from a supporter of homeopathy. It's almost, in a strange sort of perverted way, poetic. Daniela from South Australia posted, homeopathy is still around because it has proven effectiveness for hundreds of years. The medical and scientific world are just afraid of something they don't understand. Not everything can be explained with science. The medicines work on an energetic level to balance the body and return us to a level of homeostasis. Humans are energetic beings, which is why energy medicines such as homeopathy are so valuable and effective. There are hundreds of double-blind placebo crossover trials that have proven the benefits of homeopathy, but the medical world continues to overlook the evidence because they cannot explain it scientifically. And I completely agree with Tony. Doctors are scared to lose money if they reveal the truth about homeopathy. I know I would much rather use a homeopathic medicine which costs $10 to $15 and works subtly to correct the cause of my illness than a pharmaceutical drug costing $50 plus, which will only suppress my symptoms and probably have a range of horrible side effects. Please don't take the word of your doctor as gospel just because he is wearing a white coat. Do your own research and make an informed decision. So congratulations, Tory Sherperd, a wonderful article that has caused a lot of reaction, and I don't think the homeopathic community is happy at all.
Desiree Schell, host of Skeptically Speaking. Check out our website at skepticallyspeaking.com and listen to us live on CJSR 88.5 FM in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I now return you to the Skeptic Zone.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Look, sitting at the end of the Skeptic table, of course, is Michael Shermer. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Now, have you recovered from your visit to Australia yet?
Oh, I love that. I want to go back.
Now, what was your strategy for handling such a long time on a plane? Because you've got a brain that thinks and everything. Could go a bit nutty just sitting in the chair for so long.
Well, I can write anywhere. I'm a writer, so I have my laptop and I can write right there. Wow. Either my Scientific American column, or I can edit articles for Skeptic, or write a blog, or work on a chapter on my next book, because I'm always writing the next book. So that's no problem.
And you're always riding as well. You're always going for a bike ride, no matter where you are. Even in Australia, you couldn't resist taking on the traffic.
I rented bikes in Australia, and I had to kind of pay attention because everything's a little bit different in another country, but it was no problem.
And of course, here at TAM, it's a great grassroots meeting. I've seen lots of people from the movement come up and have a chat to you. What do they all usually ask you? What's everyone's talking about this time round?
Well, this time there's been a lot on alternative medicine, conspiracy theories. Those are popular. Climate denial is a huge one these days. So our cover story that we're handing out here at TAM is on the best climate denier arguments and the best rebuttals of them.
Are there any new conspiracy theories coming up just on the horizon you've seen coming along?
There's the 9/11 truthers don't seem to go away. The anti-vaxxers has been big. They think it's a conspiracy of Big Pharma and the government.
Yeah, so do you think it's not so much their suspicion of science, but their suspicion of capitalism?
Yes, that's right. Although we were just up at Freedom Fest the other day, the big libertarian conference here at Vegas at the same weekend, and they're very supportive of anti-vax stuff, and they don't trust corporations in this sense. So it's not just anti-capital. Even the pro-capitalists are conspiratorial in that way, in the sense that when corporations are in bed with government, that's when it's complicated.
And politically, I see in the skeptical movement sometimes that libertarianism seems to have a bit of an edge in there. But is politics something you guys don't talk about too much because of that? Because some people, libertarianism, I don't think that's part of skepticism.
Well, we're politically neutral in that sense. We're not trying to adjudicate whether the left or the right or Republicans or Democrats, whatever. We stay out of that fight. Other people do that. But we do deal with it when it comes to things like teaching science education. To what extent are the creationists and the climate deniers trying to alter curriculum to fit their political agenda? In that case, we come down on the side of the data and science.
And how do you repeatedly go up against woo, because it's the same woo and you've been doing it for years? How do you continually keep fresh trying to fight it?
Oh, well, this is our job.
It's the same argument all the time, isn't it?
Yes, well, but, everybody needs a hobby.
Yes.
It's just that this is our job to keep doing this. Actors have to do the same play every night, and magicians do the same acts every day. So this is just what we do.
And what's been the most inspiring thing at TAM this year? Have you seen a speech or a workshop that you've enjoyed?
Oh, I really I liked Jamie and Swiss's inspirational talk. And
look, my favourite line from that is, "Don't come into my tent and move my tent."
Yes, that was very good. And Eugenie Scott's talk, updating on creationism. I always like to know what's the latest on that. Yeah, it's all good. All the talks have been good, I think.
And when it comes to solid science, what's the most exciting thing that's come up in recent times for you?
Well, of course, the Higgs boson, I guess, is big. I always like to follow the cosmology stuff, but I'm a social scientist, so like Steve Pinker's latest book that inspired me to push into that area myself for my next book, Better Angels of Our Nature, is Steve's book, on how things are getting better. And I think skeptics, atheists, humanists, and so on should be optimistic about the future, because we are actually having an effect that the values that we believe in, the classical liberalism and the Enlightenment values of humanism, These are the things that are really changing the world, and so we should celebrate those.
And what's the quick message to get across to media when you do that? Because you've been on all the media outlets, you get a certain amount of time. Have you disciplined yourself to push the message really quickly? Because you get no more than like 20 seconds at a go, do you?
Yeah, that's right. So, we just try to get the message that we're teaching people how to think, not what to think. That we live in an age of science. Science should be the definitive test about whether something is true or not, because what we know from neuroscience is that you can't trust your brain. That we all have these cognitive biases that lead us to believe what it is we already want to be true. And this happens to be the case for everybody. So we just try to get through the message that critical thinking, reason, logic, empiricism, experiment, open inquiry, in other words, science. Skepticism is science.
Now, have you actually been on the receiving end at Fox News or CNN or something in a debate where you've had the earpiece in your ear and you've been on a remote camera and you've had to have a fiery person on the other end? Have you had to do that?
A lot, all the time.
Yeah, and how do you feel at the end of it when you possibly haven't quite got your argument across or they've cut you off or something?
Well, I have thick skin. Yeah, I've done it so much, it's not a problem.
Does it help to yell in that sort of situation?
No.
No, okay.
It doesn't help to yell.
Okay. Because Penn Jillette seems to think a little bit the opposite. It's okay to lose your cool occasionally.
Well, you can be assertive and in a strategic way, not lose your temper. I think what he's talking about is strategically raising your voice and saying something with more emphasis as a way to make a point.
Well, I can see lots of people lined up to meet you here, Michael. Thank you for your time. If there's somewhere we could go, if there's one website that you've discovered recently that you think is a really interesting science website that you could recommend for us.
Go to skeptic.com, and our own Skepticism 101 is our new program.
Cool. And what's the next book you're working on, or is it still secret?
Well, it's not a secret. My talk here was based on that. The moral arc of science. That is, the arc of the moral universe is bending toward justice thanks to science, reason, logic, empiricism, the Enlightenment values.
Okay. Well, I'll stop watching less late-night television because I would think the opposite if I was doing that.
Yeah, you have to. Don't focus on the negative too much.
Great. Thank you very much for your time,
you're
Michael.
welcome.
Thank you.
Does that have a weird taste?
No, hang on a minute. We've got someone having a go at the musk sticks again, sir. You've had the musk sticks. What do you reckon?
I think they're pretty good. I think they're very nice. I like them.
You're not just being polite, are you?
No, I'll need another one and I'll prove it to you.
Okay, well, fair enough then. Have a go. Now, of course, we've got Roy here. Roy Travis, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Maynard?
Oh, pretty good. Look, we're just doing so many interviews today. I had to have you wait.
Yeah, well, I know my place now.
Now, what do you reckon about musk sticks?
I'm not eating those things. Are you crazy?
No, what problem have you got with a perfumed, sugary product from a mysterious source?
Well, besides that, hearing people explain that it tastes like deodorant is kind of a turnoff.
Oh, now, of course, look, explain to the people who you are. You've been on the show a number of times and what you do.
Well, I'm president of and founder, one of the co-founders of Granite State Skeptics. I run that with my wife, Dale. And we do monthly meetings, and we've done some protests. We did a protest to John Edward. What else have we done? Andrew, what else have we done? Andrew, the person that you were talking to earlier, is one of our members. What else have we done as a group?
Did you tell him of the John Edward? Your skeptical investigation?
Oh, yes. We did a haunted investigation, which turned up we were able to explain 2 out of the 3 things that were claimed. The other one still remains a mystery. People were hearing voices in the house. And we've done a skeptic camp and various other things. Skeptic tour of Salem, Massachusetts, where the witch trials were.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, now there's a time that could have used a little bit of reason, if not science as well.
Yes, very much so.
And actually, what was the real reason? Because those women were just different in the village, or were they singled out for another reason? Did they have a personality trait that made them a target, or was someone looking for a target?
I think it all started with one person who was I don't know exactly what her title was, but kind of a maid and nanny type of job, named Tituba, who was a black woman, which I'm sure didn't help any. No. And then when people started to criticize what the girls were saying, then they ended up becoming targets as well. So it kind of just snowballed from there.
Yeah. And look, the parallels with the McCarthy era are certainly
Yes, very much so, yes.
And can you see something like that now? What would the modern witch hunt be? Now, of course, a lot of people in the paranormal claim that the skeptics are doing a witch hunt on them for thinking outside of science and, and demanding an explanation for something which they can't because science can't explain it yet. I've certainly heard that used.
Yeah, but as we know, just because you don't know what causes something, you can't just make something up to fill in the gaps. So there's that.
Is there a theory or a bit of woo that is your one that you really go after? Is it ghosts or is it something else?
The thing that really gets to me more than anything else, I find a lot of it interesting, but most of the alt-med claims. Anything that can be really damaging to people. More so like the anti-vax stuff. Anything that tries to cure something that could be a real problem, and then to a lesser extent stuff like the power balance bracelets and things like that.
Now with the anti-vaccination movement here in the US, you have a lot of celebrities behind it. It's a little bit different in Australia. Does that make it easier or more difficult to fight because there's celebrities attached to it?
I think it makes it slightly more challenging because it's difficult to disconnect from the personal attacks. Because, like a lot of people, especially with Jenny McCarthy specifically, people will point to the fact that she used to be a Playboy model, for example, and that doesn't really enter into the actual problem. But it's an easy target, and sometimes you have to pull yourself away.
There's plenty of Playboy models with degrees and all sorts of things.
Right, exactly. So that doesn't make the claim invalid. So it's important to stick with the claim.
And have you had to go head-to-head with the anti-vaccination people in a public forum?
No, I've luckily have not.
Oh, and in an event like this, I thought there might be someone turning up with a sandwich board or something like that, and I was hoping to meet someone like that, but sadly no.
I don't know.
Do you get truthers coming here? Do you get people that have got some extraordinary claims that they think they have to let you know about?
Actually, that's very interesting because I think it was either last year or the year before there was a moon hoax person that came up and actually questioned Phil Plait about it, and it went interestingly, we'll say.
They weren't sort of thrown out on their bum, were they?
No. Actually, after Phil's talk, it kind of just got squashed when the question was asked. But afterwards, there was a discussion circle around him, and people were talking to him about it. And it was very, it was very nice. It wasn't. They weren't like really pounding on him or anything. So.
Oh, wow. And what's the thing you've been looking forward to here this year? Is there one event that you're going to be at with bells on?
Probably the Bacon and Donut Party. I went to the rehearsal on Wednesday, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Now that is where Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller, of course, and his band, the No God Band,
yes,
do a set. They have some skeptical dancers on stage.
Yep. There's
now what sort of numbers do they do? What sort of covers? Can you say what they're doing?
Oh, there's only one cover, and I don't remember what the cover was, and all the rest is all original songs.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And what sort of style? It strikes me as a bit of a boogie bland, dun, 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 but it's more of a hard rock sound, is it?
Yeah, there's that, and there's a little bit of punk stuff as well, yeah.
Oh, cool. And, of course, where can people find you online?
On Facebook, it's facebook.com/Scooter with zeros, so it's SC00TER. Same name on Twitter. Or for Granite State Skeptics, it's just granitestateskeptics.com or .org.
And by the way, if you want a visual association here, this guy never has an unironed bowling shirt. You pack well, sir.
Thank you.
Well, there's certainly no shortage of Americans to talk to with what they think of what's going on, but at the end of the Skeptic table, just between Skeptoid and the Skeptic Zone, there's something really big that's happening in Melbourne this year that I'm hoping to get to, and as an Australian, you should go to or be ashamed of yourself.
How you going, Maynard? All right?
Yeah, it's funny how sometimes we turn our accents up for the Americans, isn't it?
I do, and I've got... did you notice my hat, Maynard?
Yes,
do you know what it is? It's an actual real Ruskin hat. You know,
oh, really?
We have killed kangaroos for this hat and this promotional exercise.
And how do the Americans go when you tell them that we actually do kill and eat our national symbol sometimes?
Yeah, they're a little horrified, but, you know, when we explain that when we eat koala steaks, they just have this little bit of a eucalyptus aftertaste aftertaste, but after that they're not too bad.
Well, I mean, yeah, you rarely see bald eagle on the menu over here.
No, it's funny about that, but one of these days, perhaps bald eagle might be the go. But I think one or two Americans here, I think skeptics generally are much better educated than the general American public, and they kind of have a bit of an understanding of Australian humour, and I think therefore it goes down reasonably well.
Well, they have an understanding that we actually have a humour, because sometimes everything's just so straight here, isn't it?
Yeah, well, our ironic humour kind of gets lost a little bit on a lot of Americans, and I found that in past trips. But no, a lot of the skeptics, I think, probably have that sense of humour too.
And what's been the reaction to the big conference coming up later in the year?
It's been really good. We've had a number of people express interest. It's been good. We're running a special, a free koala with a T-shirt, so it's going well.
The main thing that seems to put them off is the distance to travel, isn't it? They like the line-up, they like the fact of where it is. They're just a bit reticent about hopping on a plane for 5 days to get here, aren't they?
Yes, it's one of those strange things. The Americans will look you in the eye and explain, Australia is so far away and costs so much to come to. Now, unlike yourself, who got funded by the Skeptic Zone members, and thank you to the Skeptic Zone members.
I feel very lucky, and Matt, let me tell you, I've felt every morning I wake up and I go, I better earn my keep, let me tell you, and I've been running around as you've seen me do because, I've been very lucky. But they seem to forget that we came here and are very aware of what it's like to get here, so...
Well, that's right. You look back at them with a fairly deadpan look and say, oh, is it? Or something like that. Or, I didn't know that an airfare costs quite a lot.
Now, sell us on the lineup too, because it's quite a fiery, interesting lineup you've got for the conference. I almost said show. I'm used to saying show.
Well, that's right, and it's been one of the slight problems that we've had, Maynard, selling that over here, because we say, come to Australia and watch James Randi. Well, he's just been walking up and down here.
He's 20 feet over there, as they like to say.
Come to Australia, watch DJ Grothy. Oh, well, he's here too. Brian Thompson is here. Dr. Rachy, who's sitting right in front of us at the moment. Richard Saunders, who's been floating around as well. So they're kind of saying, what's this all about? They're all here. Why should we come to Australia?
But you have to really sell them on our friendliness and the fact that they will have a better time at an Australian conference than they will ever have at an American conference. I reckon that's the way to sell it.
No worries, mate. There's no doubt about that. But I was speaking to Paul Provenza yesterday, who did the Satirista show. I don't know whether you saw that the other night. I was absolutely ashamed of myself at the end of that. I had to wipe tears of laughter out of my eyes. Cool. As a former educator, that sort of humour I've frowned on all my life, Maynard, but for Tam I'll make an exception. But he was saying that he comes out for our comedy festival each year, and we're hoping to get him to perhaps talk to our Vic Skeptics next year.
And that's right. American listeners, the Melbourne Comedy Festival is up there with Edinburgh, I reckon. So far, Edinburgh, you will get maybe some newer things you mightn't have seen, but the same thing will happen in Melbourne.
Well, I believe it's number 2 in the World Comedy Festival gigs, and this year I organised through the Vic Skeptics our skeptical outing. We have a skeptical outing each year.
Where you go around pointing at gay people. I don't think that's very nice.
I should have defined my terms, I think. No. We get together, and this year we went out to see Lawrence Lung, of course. And
that's a great night out for skeptics. Perfect.
Yes, absolutely. So there are about 25 of us, and we all trooped off together to watch Lawrence Lung, who's actually appearing at the convention as well. We've got Stephen Mayne, who is some of us shareholder activist and media person. Stephen Mayne, who's quite a fascinating guy. We've also got Dr. Mick Vagg and Dr. Steve Basser, who will join Ken Harvey on our medical panel. So we're going to really examine woo in Australia as well.
Now, they're, as we would say in the Australian lingo, classic stirrers.
Oh, yes. Ken Harvey has really put everything on the line to fight SensorSlim in particular, but he's also working very, very hard to give the TGA a bit of teeth. So I think it's giving the tiger some teeth.
Hey, you know what I saw on late night TV last night here, and let me tell you, it's a great woo fest. It's this belt that you wear around your middle, which heats you up. It must have some exothermal reaction or something with the skin, and then when you take the belt off, it sort of tingles tingly and warm, and the whole idea is that it heats up your stomach and reduces in spot reduction that area of your fat.
Yes, well, I could certainly do with one of those after having spent nearly a week in Las Vegas. There is no such thing as restraint. We ordered a sandwich. Are we allowed to? It's not really advertising, but we went to what's called the Carnegie Deli at the Mirage restaurant, and I just wanted a light meal. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon, hadn't had lunch. Ordered a sandwich. Now, we know what a sandwich is.
Yes.
Not really. We're talking literally, it was about 30 centimetres of high slices of, it was called hard salami with a token piece of bread on the bottom and on the top, and a big skewer stuffed right down the middle.
A huge amount of processed meat. And if you did buy a sandwich that was that big in Australia, it'd be about $30, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. All I wanted was a light meal. So I struggled through half of it and bought the other half back and had it for dinner. It was just absolutely staggering.
Is there something that you've taken away from this visit to the US to go, well, that's pretty cool, I must get into some more of that? Any flavours you've discovered, any drinks?
Oh, drink? No, not really. I managed to investigate American culture. The best way to investigate American culture is to sit around blackjack tables, I've found, and I only sit around blackjack tables to do this sort of cultural exchange and things like that for absolutely no other reason whatsoever.
But perhaps a touch of mathematics as well.
Oh, yes, mathematics. But
probability theory.
I find the mathematics gets a little slower as the evening goes on, but it's a great thing. But I really enjoyed a lot of the presentations here. It's been great to see absolutely a really strong Australian presence. I don't know, we've probably got at least a dozen Australians here.
Yeah.
Would that be the sort of number you've come up with?
I think that'd be pretty close to how many are here, and we always get a nice smile. They seem to like us. There's no Finnish, but the Finnish skeptics aren't here. I guess there's a language barrier. There's not a lot of Scandinavian skeptics here, unfortunately. I know we've got strong representation in Sweden, and don't see them here, but it's a long way for them to come too.
Well, it is. And it's funny you mention that. On the very first day, as registration was opening, I was coming up the stairs there was a young bloke, and we got into conversation. He obviously didn't sort of pick up accents all that well, and it turned out he was from Sweden, and he was coming up and he was explaining how long the plane flight was from Sweden. It was all of 8 hours, Maynard. And,
8 hours?
Yes, all of 8 hours.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
And I'm going back by Seoul, so I've got Las Vegas to LA, 3 hour stopover, LA to Seoul, 3 hour stopover, Seoul to Sydney, and by then I should be well into my 60s.
Well, absolutely. But yes, we flew through Sydney, of course, from Melbourne. But as we were flying out of Sydney, I noticed that we just chalked up 6 hours of travel already, and then it was a 13-hour flight to San Francisco, and then we drove up after that. But
what's your survival strategy for being on a plane that long? I try and zone out, how do you do it?
Well, being a new age sort of guy, I've just moved into eye stuff. So I have this iPad, and is a nano an eye thing? I don't know. It doesn't have eye in front. Should it be called an eye nano, perhaps?
Well, in that case, wouldn't the iPhone be a nano iPad?
Maybe. I don't really know. So anyway, I kind of put on a little bit of Led Zeppelin or something like that, and, just sit there head-banging away.
Are you much of a podcast listener? Because a lot of skeptics are into the podcast.
I only been into it probably about 3 months, and the reason I got into it simply was because of Skeptic Zone and Skeptoid and SGU's podcast.
And you've got the young Melbourne skeptics, their podcast down there is fantastic.
Yes, and we heard yesterday there are something like 90 skeptic podcasts of different forms. It's plateaued off, but I did a quick mental calculation, and I worked out 90 of these come out roughly every 1-2 weeks. There may be a half an hour. You'd be listening to podcasts for about 40, 50, 60 hours a week just to sort of listen to all this skeptics podcasts.
Look, and the most I can probably listen to is about 10 hours a week, and that's going for it.
But I always listen to the Skeptic Zone first, Maynard, absolutely.
And we always go to the website to find out how we can find out more about what's going on at Melbourne later in the year. What's the website you guys have got?
Yes, the website, the easiest way to find it is probably either through the Australian Skeptics website, or if you just do a Google search on Vic Skeptics, on the right-hand side there's a convention tab, and you just go through to the tab there. But it's looking like a really good convention. And I must say, coming to a convention like this, it's just absolutely on steroids and so inspiring. People like Jamie Ian Swiss was just absolutely magic. And it was funny, I have here, and we're going to announce later on in the year, we have a copy of Flim Flam.
Yes.
So for those who come to the convention, we will have a special deal, and I don't want you to, but would you like a copy, without telling the punters what it is, of Flim Flam that had that associated? Would you be bidding money for something like that as a fundraiser at our convention?
I have seen how you have value added to that book, and I think, yes, there isn't. It's going to be a hot item.
It's going to be a hot item, so it's been really good. But strangely enough, we don't believe in luck in scepticism, do we, really? No. But I'd be hunting for Michael Shermer for a couple of days, literally hunting.
Yeah, look, so have I. In fact, I'm going to be very lucky if I can find him. I spoke to him last year, but he comes to the desk for a little while down there and he whizzes off again.
Absolutely. So there I was. I'd been doing this, looking for him for two days solid. I got in the lift the elevator this morning to come down here, and the lift stopped two floors below where I got on, and all of a sudden this lycra-clad individual that had a face that looked a lot like Michael Shermer jumped on the lift. He was going out for a bike ride. Apparently he's into bike riding.
Oh, no, in fact, he once was bike riding so hard he actually had an alien abduction experience because he was just in such a zoned-out way on a bike race once. It's in his book.
Yeah. So anyway, I said, while we're travelling sort of 25 floors down south, would you mind? And he signed an object that I had in front of me, so it was really great.
Well, that's one of the things you may be able to have some interest in later in the year. And what's the website again?
Go to the Vic Skeptics website, and if you just click the tab there, you'll find out all the information you need for the convention. So it should be really good, and we're really looking forward to it.
Hey guys, this is Jay from the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, and whoa, hold on, whoa! Everybody knows I'm the only reason to listen to the freaking show, right? I mean, if it was up to me, the show would start with this. Yeah, boy! Well, Rebecca would hate that, probably, but, I'd rock that. Listen to our show and you can learn about cool stuff like a technological singularity, which is someday when technology progresses so fast that it would make the Industrial Revolution look like a kid's science project. Anyway, come check us out at www.theskepticsguide.org and get your science on!
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Those birds are still out there. Must be feeding time somewhere. On next week's show, well, I don't know. I can't look into the future. There are a few things on the boil, and maybe a few interviews here and there. It's been pretty tough to do the old think tank lately because various friends who helped me with the think tank have been indisposed or away or not available. In fact, I happen to know Dr. Raichi is at this moment in the United States having a good time nomming in Las Vegas. But soon, I hope soon. But it's not too long before I'm having a short visit to the United States myself. I'm catching up with Brian Dunning, and he has promised me a hot tub of truth, folks. The think tank from the hot tub. And if that happens, you'll certainly hear it here on the Skeptic Zone. But until then, until next week at least, this is Richard Saunders, away with the birds, signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.